Okay,
I think we're live.
I think we're live.
Oh, nice. Hello.
All right, should we get started?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Jake Myhre, a brand strategist at Super Union, a global brand agency in the WPP group. And I'm very lucky to be joined today by Rodrigo Samwell, from the Chief Marketing Officer of ESL Gaming, and Marta Swannie, Senior Creative and Innovation Director at Super Union. So today, as I'm sure you're aware, we're going to talk about esports, what it is, what opportunities it holds for brands, and how they can make the most of them. And before we jump in, we'll hopefully have some time for some audience questions at the end. So if you have any burning queries, please do pop them in the Q&A chat as we go along, and hopefully we can get to them at the end. Cool. Alrighty. So to start off with our first question for these two, as many will have noticed, esports has been in the headlines more than ever in recent months. Of course, really taking stage as traditional sports have been on hold. So Rodrigo, as lots of people are now learning about esports for the first time, please can you explain what esports is and where it's come from?
Okay, so we start from the beginning. So esports is, if you think about it, is competitive gaming organized into a sport. So, you know, if you would like, that's the easiest, simplest definition of it, is competitive gaming organized into a sport. And so it has a lot of similarities to traditional sports in the sense that it has, you know, leagues, tournaments, the structures, a lot of professionalization happening. And so to some extent is very similar to traditional sports. On the other side is very different because it is digital, it attracts a much younger demographic, super high pace. And what was very interesting to see a couple of years ago, when we did some strategy work actually with Super Union on our brand and insights, one of the insights that stuck with me, I think forever, is really this category tension between traditional sports and esports. Well, in traditional sports, to get engaged as a teenager, for example, it's a lot of effort. So you need to come out of school, go home, get your equipment, go to a soccer field or something like this, or a basketball field. It takes a lot of time. Sometimes you are exposed to the elements. Whilst on esports, you can play now with mobile from anywhere. But so the barriers to entry and to start really participating are very low, and that explains a lot as well why esports is developing so fast. The other interesting angle is, a lot of times people ask me the question, Jake, around what's the difference between esports and gaming, which is also slightly something interesting to talk about. If you think about, all esports are gaming, but not all games are esports ready. So if you think about gaming is almost like, the common denominator. Everybody, can be potentially a gamer, but only some games become esports titles because they have a proper structure from amateur to pro, professional leagues, and are really catered to become a competitive genre. I'll give you an example. So Counter-Strike or Dota 2 are some of the two largest esports titles in the world. There are other games that are a lot of fun. Candy Crush, for example, is not really an esports title. It's not really geared up for to become a viewership sport. And that's the other element I wanted to mention, is then viewership. When esports typically, games become esports titles when they attract huge amount of viewership, millions of people watching, and that's what's, like in any traditional sport, that's what then makes it grow.
Terrific. So for those familiar with esports already, of course, ESL needs no introduction. But for those who are new to the sport, ESL is the world's largest esports company, operating online and offline competitions in dozens of different games, viewed by a global audience of over 240 million fans around the world. And of course, over the past 2 years, Super Union and ESL have been working together very closely to build the leading brand in esports, notably launching ESL's global rebrand early last year. And before I pass over again to Rodrigo to tell you more, we're going to play a quick film introducing ESL. Awesome. I hope that went well for everybody.
I love this.
So yeah, Rodrigo, and as some watching may have heard already, it was announced a couple of days ago that the two esports giants, ESL and DreamHack, are coming together. Please, can you tell us a bit more about the two brands, their incredible histories, and what this exciting merger means for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. And I see on the chat, I was reading in the chat, some people already know ESL and went to some of our events, including New York. So you know what we are talking about. And so what we did is we actually, this was a match made in heaven, right? So ESL, the largest esports company in the world, joining DreamHack, which is the leading gaming festival company in the world. We were owned already by the same shareholder for a while, and now we just joined together under one single entity. And if you think about the history of esports, when ESL was founded 20 years ago, it's not a new thing. But when it was founded, the founders, that some of them are still at ESL, really created this ESL to become the place where everybody can be somebody, where nerds could become superstars and the stars of their generation. I think in the first 5 years, everybody thought it's not, nobody cared about what they were doing. A few guys organizing tournaments in a garage in some cafes. I think 2005, 2010, more or less, ESL started getting bigger and trying to go to the next stage, and failed miserably in some experts going to theaters, for example, and larger venues. And so the question from everybody is that, okay, it's a niche thing, but you can never make a business out of it. And so again, these guys were attacked from all directions. You can't do it. And then between 2010, 15, the first large stadium events were brought to life. Katowice in 2014, I believe, 13, 14, where esports just became a gigantic thing and started growing a lot, and people got the attention of everybody in the world. And now we are sort of the last 5 years in a super high-paced growth and professionalization of the whole industry. And so ESL has been always about this zero to hero journey, to help everybody in the world in their favorite game to go from amateur to pro. So ESL organizes leagues and tournaments from the most amateur basic online competitions up to stadiums with 15,000 people and millions of people watching live. And then DreamHack is a super exciting brand. I mean, a friend of mine texted me yesterday saying you could not wait until you get a hold of the DreamHack brand, which is because DreamHack is basically where the gaming community comes to life. And what does it mean? So DreamHack organizes these gaming festivals where it's a LAN party on one side. You bring your own computer. You can play some esports titles. You can play other, general gaming. There, it's a EDM concert as well. So it's kind of a true festival where like-minded people and gamers can come together and really, feel that they are part of this gaming community. It started in Sweden, and DreamHack is a bit all over the world, from US to Asia. And so the joining of the two companies makes total sense. And it will just project the whole esports and gaming industry into a next level. We hope that we more and more will work together with DreamHack to actually be able to provide fantastic experiences where you have very serious esports competitions, of course, with integrity, fair play, the real thing with ESL. But at the same time, we have these amazing gaming festivals around these competitions. That hopefully will continue, bringing a lot of fans to us. So we are super excited with this move, and looking forward to show everybody what we are planning to do.
Terrific. Well, thanks so much, Rodrigo. Before we move on to the next question, we're going to play another quick film.
Gaming is open to everyone. Games teach, connect, and inspire us to challenge our limits. For the few that become true masters, a new world of competition awaits. For an ever-growing generation of gamers and digital natives, esports is their sport and their entertainment. It's digital first, global in nature, yet intimately connected via online communities. It has transcended the online arena and fills stadiums with thousands of fans who travel from all over the world to celebrate their games, their stars, and their sport. We're at the beginning of a new exciting era. Join us as we build a new
Cool. So, of course, esports is particularly exciting for brands looking to engage with its rapidly growing global audience. Marta and Rodrigo, please can you talk about the esports audience and the opportunities that brands have to connect with them?
Well, I think it's you know, the audience is an interesting one, because I think that they are often called the unreachables. You know, it's like it's a group of people who are usually quite skeptical of traditional advertising. So when brands can kind of get into this space, they can really have a really deep connection and engagement with a group of people, which are really normally quite hard to reach. And I also think that, you know, the esports fans in the gaming community are hugely passionate. So if brands can go in and, you know, figure out a way to kind of support that community and really make that experience better, they'll get the kind of like brand affinity and brand love that they're not going to easily get anywhere else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then there's one thing that I mentioned in the beginning. Esports is all these different titles, and so one of the interesting things about what Marta said is that in addressing this type of audience is almost like thinking about you know, addressing many different audiences, because each game is almost like their own tribe, and so therefore the opportunity is really to connect with that audience that is very difficult to reach. If I would be today in any industry, I would probably be thinking about how can I have a gaming/esports type of strategy to connect to this audience. Fans spend more time consuming esports than any other medium out there. It's study after study shown that, you know, it's going to get even bigger. You know, if you look at teenagers these days, number one, number two priority is always gaming. Ahead of music, ahead of so many other things. Not only for men, it's growing a lot for women as well, especially with mobile gaming. So the opportunity is really for brands to think about, you know, how can I get my brands to help fans feel that that we are caring and understanding their passion, and in this case, passion for them is gaming. If I would be in an insurance company, I'll probably be thinking about how can I, you know, have products and services and insurance packages to cover, you know, digital items that people buy these days, and cosmetic items that are, you know, sometimes can be stolen, for example. If I'm on an energy company, you know, probably I would be thinking about, you know, how can I show to the world that I'm going this journey to become a clean energy provider, and therefore I want to actually power esports, which need energy, electricity, and power esports in a very meaningful and authentic way, and really helping and showing the fans that this brand is really caring for what they love. So the opportunity is massive, and we are just starting. I mentioned before this 20 years, in 100 years, nobody will divide these first 20 years into 4 sections like I did. It will be just part of the first piece, which is just the initial growth phase.
Terrific. Well, as you said, Rodrigo, it's clear the opportunities for brands in esports are massive, but of course it's really important for brands to recognize that the esports audience is not like any other sports audience. So please can you both share some of your best advice for brands wanting to engage with this audience effectively?
Sure. I think particularly for non-endemic brands, I think that to go into this space, they need to sort of figure out what their point of view on gaming and esports is, and kind of have almost a gaming strategy and identity kind of set out before going in, and making sure that it kind of aligns to their brand in general, so it feels authentic. You know, you don't want to kind of go into gaming as a completely different person. You want to go in a way that kind of aligns to everything else you're doing as a brand. However, you also need to be prepared. I think brands need to be prepared to not take themselves maybe quite as seriously when they go into this world, you know, to have some fun, and, you know, to be prepared to roll with the punches, because if if you kind of make a little bit of a misstep, everyone's going to notice, everyone's going to talk about it, but it's okay. I think you just kind of acknowledge it and go on, and then everybody's fine. But you have to kind of like learn to sort of, I would say, have fun and maybe, you know, just learn to roll with the punches a bit.
Absolutely, we have some very interesting examples, even with some large brands like Mercedes, where we actually took that to the next level, and we got a consent from the brand to play a bit with the brand, and that worked really well with the community because it allows this feeling of it's not this stiff corporate brand, but actually somebody that is part of us, is our friend. So absolutely, I think that's absolutely key. One element is also very important as well, is always to think about you know, how to authentically connect to the audiences. So it's not about sticking a logo. I mean, young millennials and Gen Z, they smell very quickly when brands are throwing money at the problem and buying their way out of something. So for sure, some of the conversations we have with CMOs a lot of times is, first of all, understanding what's their problem, what do they want to achieve with esports, what's the target audience, and how they want to engage gamers. So that's one important element. But then the second one following it is how you do it. It needs to be done in an authentic way. You know, DHL that works with us, for example, is really actually enabling our, and here's a picture of some of the stuff we did, is really enabling our events. So they are really transporting our merchandise, our equipment from one place to the other. They're delivering things to friends. And so what we do is we don't just stick a logo of DHL. We basically have a whole campaign, 6 months. When somebody was in New York, I saw here in the chat, and so you saw what happened with DHL last year there. And so that campaign started 6 months to a year before, where we basically have on all content type of opportunity to embed the partner, and it becomes really authentically delivering the event. So being, you know, delivering our equipment to the event, delivering stuff to players, you know, having you know, when teams are announced, being able to play a bit with, and then to the point that in the case of DHL, they have this FE bot that you see there on the top right corner, and the FE bot is actually a robot that they use on DHL uses on their warehouse. It's actually a real thing. It doesn't look exactly like that. It's almost the same, and it basically follows with AI. It follows the different employees of DHL so that it can carry a few things. And so what we did was we got FE bot into these events, and that seems like a no-brainer. But what we did is we embedded into the whole storytelling of the event. And so even the opening ceremony, there was a video, a CGI video that started actually in a DHL physical facility, where that influencer that you see there with the microphones, it's called Selection Flex, is very known in the Dota 2 community. He basically was in the DHL facility with the employees, just, you know, packing potions and stuff for the game. It's really funny. And then that whole thing in a DHL dispatchment type of facility moved into a CGI movie where the FE bot gets into the Dota 2 game and delivers a lot of equipment and potions to the different heroes. And you see that on a large screen at the event, of course, and at home online. And then when FE bot delivers the last type of goods to the players, then the match starts and the final starts. And so those are the sort of clever integrations where we bring, using, you know, the fact that gaming is digital and we could do a lot of things to really integrate the brands into the storytelling throughout a long period of time, and that becomes then very authentic. And then, you know, Marta, we always love to look at at what happens, and also a few times you know, people get chant DHL, right? So it's quite impressive.
Yeah, it is quite incredible when you go to big esports stadium, big arena, and the entire crowd is shouting DHL, DHL, and who, you know, you would never really expect that, but it's DHL is a perfect example of really, you know, engaging with the community. They're always completely part of what's going on, you know, at the event, and it works superbly. It's really great.
Yes, and we like to use this example because this is probably one of the most difficult ones. You would imagine DHL is not the sexiest as a consumer brand, and is actually engaging in the most advanced, most difficult audience to get these days, and it works. And that's what I think it's an opportunity for all these brands and understanding these fans is really when you connect to them, when you are part of enabling what they love and their passion, you as a brand, you just get love back, and very authentic, and it goes very fast, viral online, that love. So that's amazing to see.
Terrific. Well, I've certainly never looked at DHL the same way after going to these events, and you have to see what happens.
So this is unprompted, and I mean, this is a close-up, but usually it's like, imagine 10,000 people in a stadium all chanting DHL, totally unprompted, and now it became a thing, and now at every event where DHL is, it happens, and so that's quite interesting to see.
Definitely. I recommend everyone going to YouTube, have a look at DHL ESL 1. All the videos are crazy. Cool. All right, so moving on to our next question. As I mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of talk recently about how esports has been able to adapt to the global pandemic and grow substantially as a result. Rodrigo, please can you talk about how esports has changed during the global pandemic?
Well, this was, February 2020, crazy year for everybody. For us, we were 12 hours away from our largest event, one of the largest ones, 180,000 people coming to our doors the next day in Katowice in Poland, the Intel Extreme Masters, and we got communication from the official authorities in Poland that we could not have any people, any people in the arena, and so we had to do the first broadcast in the stadium with the teams, but without people. And then 2 weeks later, we had our first and next competition, and we were already online. So the amazing thing about our company is that we changed very quickly, but then esports went online because esports lives online. So what we did is we kept all our majority of our events. We had to move away from venues because of COVID, but we did all the competitions online. And where latency was an issue, we did the European leagues, North American leagues, and in Asia as well. And so esports continued, and by April we were beating viewership records of all time. And so we were actually growing. If you think about it, you can say it's, finally gaming is growing even more. We were lucky in one sense that there was no other sports in the world, so nobody could see any live sports. The only sport in the world you could literally see until the summer was esports online. And so that was amazing to see not only the transformation of our company, moving all events online, and that was by itself quite spectacular, but super high quality, but then from viewership numbers breaking records and NPS numbers going up. So the Net Promoter Score of our online viewership was going up as well. So it's just impressive to see how esports is a safe bet, and gaming during also these times is very digital, and we were able to grow this year. So we cannot complain. We, of course, are looking forward to go back to the arenas when we can. That's nothing like having an arena with 10, 15,000 people. But the year was quite interesting to see, how esports takes the central stage as being the only live sport for many months, and that was really, brought us a lot of new people that were not used to watching esports.
Terrific. Well, for me personally, it's been incredible to see how esports has developed in the last few months, but also in the last few years, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. Before we move on to questions from the audience, I'd love to hear from each of you about your predictions for the future of esports.
Well, I shall I go first? I think the thing that really excites me, and I always say this, but the thing that really excites me is mobile gaming and esports, because I think it's going to change the landscape altogether, because the demographics change so much as soon as you get into mobile gaming, and I think that's awesome. So you get, it becomes much more diverse. The audience becomes much more diverse. It's much more inclusive. The age group, changes. It just really, really opens things up, and I think that is just fantastic. So that's the part that excites me.
Absolutely, gaming. Mobile gaming is almost like the biggest equalizer of everything, of differences, because it allows everybody to participate. So I think we have fantastic experiences with our leagues now that we started a couple of years ago. They are growing dramatically and will continue. So mobile gaming is one of them. I wanted to highlight another one that is going to impact also gaming, which is 5G. Not only will impact a lot and accelerate mobile gaming and better quality gaming, but it will also allow the traditional type of more hardcore gaming. And I saw a lot of people play here Call of Duty Warzone, for example, and other games. I also do. But what is not possible today is you can play it on the version on the mobile, but you cannot really play with your laptop on the go exactly like you would have an experience at home with your console or your PC. And so 5G will enable, because of the low latency, amazing experiences if you have a gaming laptop, but also if you don't have a gaming laptop, with cloud gaming will allow you to have amazing experience of hardcore, let's say, titles that you need to consume at home with a good internet connection. So that's also going to be a change over the next years, which will then bring more people into the gaming and esports world. So I know the future is super exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Well, luckily we have a couple of minutes to answer a few questions, and I've been having a look, and there's one at the top here which I think is perfect for both of you, but especially perfect for Marta as a former musician. How do you see the music industry getting involved with esports in the future, and what should we expect to see?
That's a good one. Well, I mean, I think that, if you look at something like DreamHack Festival, there's quite a bit of music involved in a gaming festival like that. And now that you've got like the coming together of ESL and DreamHack, so you can have like elite esports, side by side on a music stage, I think you could imagine a scenario where you almost have like music festivals are kind of integrated into gaming festivals. But I mean, beyond that, if you look at like the integration of like music performances, or the new style of what I call music videos, which are actually performances inside of games like Travis Scott in Fortnite or what have you, you could also imagine a scenario where you might be having competitive sports playing during a live concert, maybe. Who knows? I just think it's all totally amazing. Like, I think it's cool.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the areas that will be more explored over the next years. We have already created a record label with Universal, between ESL and Universal, called Enter Records, and we have, if you go to Spotify, you can check our ESL One, for example, playlist there. And so what we do is that we debut a lot of new artists, and we combine that into the show. New tracks coming. And what is interesting also to see is that the musicians are all gamers now. So this new generation of musicians, they're all gamers, and they all are super passionate about it. So what you will see is naturally a tendency of writing and expressing yourself around gaming and things they love, like like artists always did around everything they did in their lives. So gaming is just a part of everybody's life. So that's super exciting, and it just brings those festivals into life in a much more spectacular way.
Yeah.
Terrific.
And it almost feels like esports teams are almost more like, I mean, they're not like bands, but they have like fans and merch, and like the whole way esports teams behave is almost more like
rock stars.
Rock stars, yeah.
It's definitely going that way. Unfortunately, I think we've run out of time, but thanks so much to you both for your amazing advice and insights. And for those watching, please do get in touch with us if you're keen to learn more about esports and how brands can get involved. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.